the Fox Valley Today. I'm your host, Anne Vickery. Joining me today, and a kind of a regular guest today here for Fox Valley Today, is Anne Rybski from the Kendall County Health Department. Anne works in the Environmental Health Department. And how long have you been with the health department? I mean, I remember you were just a young kid. I was on the county board, and I think you came in with Steve Karate.
Yeah, he was the director
Right.
of environmental health,
Right.
and we were probably bringing up an ordinance or something.
Right,
or
right.
other.
I think you were just learning. And
Yeah.
of course, I haven't seen Steve for a while, not for several months. But how long have you been with the health department?
I've been here for 16 years.
16 years.
Yeah,
that about makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
Just a little bit of time.
Right. Were you right out of college from that?
Yeah, I worked in DuPage County for 1 year and
Uh-huh.
came over here and shortly before 9/11, if that puts it in perspective.
Yeah, that does kind of put it, yeah, right. I remember that.
Yep.
Well, anyway, today we're going to be discussing environmental waste and environmental health, because it all goes together. The waste, your health, and how we keep this planet and all of ourselves a little healthier by doing a little better job of getting rid of the environmental waste that we all have to worry about.
Sure.
Whether it's e-waste or household hazardous waste, right?
Sure, or just standard recycling.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your job and what you do, and then let's move into what we want to talk about.
Sure. In environmental health, we do a whole bunch of different things. Of course, we've got food, the food program. We've got our well and septic program. We deal with mosquitoes and ticks. I've been on the program talking about that.
Yeah, we've done that.
Radon on and on. But one other big thing is we execute the solid waste plan for Kendall County. Every 5 years, we update a solid waste plan. It's required by the EPA. We get together a community group. We work together to put together a plan, and it's approved by the county board. One of our jobs is to execute that plan. That's a multifaceted plan that has sections on source reduction and recycling, and talks about transfer stations and landfills and education and all sorts of different things. So we make it a point to well, of course, we have to execute that plan. We go through all the steps. We make sure we take care of it all. But when we're talking about probably the biggest and most important part of that plan, I shouldn't say most important, but one of the biggest, most detailed parts of that plan is that on recycling and source reduction, and just the importance of that concept.
Tell me what you mean by source reduction.
Okay, sure. When we think about garbage here, you've got your garbage. You throw the garbage in the garbage, and maybe you have recyclables that go in the recycling.
Right.
You create waste from your normal living.
Right.
When we're talking about source reduction, that's actually going back to the source. It's like taking a step back from your process and setting yourself up to have less waste in the first place. It's interesting. There are several simple types of strategies that you can employ to just reduce the amount of waste. I mean, we've all heard reduce, reuse, recycle.
Right.
The reduce part is really source reduction. It's a matter of maybe you buy products like cleaners that are in a concentrated format that you can dilute. I've seen those in stores. You could dilute them and make your bottle of cleaner, and that way you have just a very small bottle to start with, less waste at the end of the waste stream. You can reduce the use of paper plates and disposable silverware.
Paper towels.
And paper towels.
Right.
In my house, we use standard silverware and plates and even cloth napkins. So you really don't generate that garbage after every meal. Yes, you're washing it, true, but you're not making that garbage that ultimately will go into a landfill or some other place. So,
you're not the only one that I've heard or talked about the fact that they refuse to use the paper, plastic. They've really cut back down on that because, again, is exactly what you're talking about. Although I think a lot of the products, other than probably the heavier plastic silverware, a lot of that stuff is kind of biodegradable, but it still is volume.
Absolutely, absolutely. It fills up your trash, it fills up the trucks, and all that sort of thing. So, simple things. I mean, when I think about it, it's almost convenient not to have to buy that stuff. For me.
Well, it's expensive. First of all, it is.
Absolutely, and then we just do the wash and we keep it cycling through.
So let me ask you a question. When you say you use cloth napkins, do you use the same cloth napkins? I mean, you obviously don't move it around the table, but does everybody kind of fold their napkin and leave it in place so that it's not, or you get fresh ones every meal?
Oh, fresh ones every meal.
Yeah, okay, well, I know some people who they will use it, they'll use it for, they kind of like have their little initial on it.
And you think about it too, though, a lot of times, everyone's busy. Yeah. Everyone's busy. So in my family, I have 2 young girls, and so are we home all the time? Is everyone at the table all the time? No, we're running around. So so it's not like we generate a whole bunch of the napkins and whatever. But I mean, that's the concept again is source reduction. You're able to do these simple strategies, just simple things, where you ultimately have less waste at the end of the day.
And do you take paper, or do you take paper newspapers, or are you all electronic?
We've canceled newspaper subscriptions. Yes,
yeah.
I prefer newspapers, but it's just I can't get to it all quick enough.
Right. Well, the New York Times and the Chicago Tribune. I mean, I gotta read it. I
sure.
mean, it's like I just so much enjoy reading that news, especially on Sundays.
Oh yes.
Especially on Sundays.
Oh yes, absolutely.
We talk about the kind of waste that we all generate. Now we've talked about the stuff that is incredible volumes of stuff. I mean, if you got a family of 4, you're all eating off of paper plates and using all kinds of paper towels and plastic silverware. Tremendous amount of volume there.
Sure.
But what about the hazardous waste, the home hazardous waste that we generate?
Well, there's a lot of different kinds of waste that in the past maybe we just threw everything into the dumpster. We've come to realize that household hazardous wastes, which now are their own category and have been for many years, are very dangerous wastes that shouldn't go into the landfill. The idea behind household hazardous wastes, what are those? Those are chemicals that they can react, they can generate heat, they could explode when they're mixed together. If you consider the wastes that you have in a house, and sometimes you have paint thinners, solvents, you have maybe photographic chemicals, you have lead acid batteries, sometimes automotive batteries, well, you could usually dispose of them in other ways, but a lot of those types of things, if the garbage man just throws it in the back of their truck, it gets compacted, everything breaks, it starts mixing together. Magnify that by I don't know how many times when you throw it into a landfill and all that stuff trickles down. It's not a good thing to have those chemicals in there reacting potentially. So the idea behind it is household hazardous wastes should be disposed of properly. Now, how do you do that? There are a couple of ways. First of all, if you live in a municipality, most of the municipalities in our county, at least the big ones, Plano, Yorkville, Oswego, Plainfield, Sugar Grove, Joliet, and Sugar Grove and Joliet are mostly not in our county as is Plainfield, but those municipalities have contracts with their municipal waste haulers where they will provide these services. These are really, up till a few years ago, these are premium services. They will come by to your curb or have a very local drop-off site for household hazardous waste.
Right.
So you can get rid of this stuff. And that's really exciting because in the old days, the EPA used to be able to fund these collection events.
Right.
Large-scale events, and you get a bunch of people out, and they're bringing all their their oil-based paints and their nasty stuff, and you'd have these guys.
The oil they changed out of their car in their driveway.
Exactly, the automotive fluids, and you'd have these guys in Tyvek suits take it away. Those are astronomically expensive events.
Yes, they are.
And so, with the cuts that they've received over the last 10 years, you actually have had probably more than 10 yeit's had less and less and less of those events, which of course then you've got these people who have this stuff in their garage, don't know what to do with it. So it's really been nice to see that industry has stepped in and waste haulers have started providing a service. Now, if you don't live in an area where you're in a municipality with one of those contracts, you could still get rid of household hazardous wastes in a local drop-off site. Now that's in Naperville. It's on Fort Hill Drive. You can look that information up. I can provide that information. You can call us. But it used to be the old fire station over there, and we're very lucky. I think there's only 3 in the entire state. And we have one in Naperville,
and that's
so
not
it's
too
close
far.
by.
And you have a website, don't you?
We do. We have the. It used to be a paper document, but getting away from the waste, we have it online. It's the Kendall County Green page, And people can find it by going to our main website, which is www.kendallhealth.org. And you could find the green page. It's listed separately on the left side of the screen, or you can go through environmental health, or you could just call the department and we'll help you out. The green page is designed to give a lot of different options for waste disposals.
Right.
It talks about standard recycling. It talks about just garbage. It talks about household hazardous wastes. And it gives links for different pages, other places that will, like it's got the link to the household hazardous waste site on there.
You made a comment before we came on camera that some paints you can dispose of. And let's talk about the difference between the oil-based and the latex that we talked about.
Sure. Well, oil-based paints are older paints. Most paints are now latex. To get rid of paints, you have to know what kind you have. If you have standard latex paint, which is most of what you get now,
right?
I mean, it's for several years. You can actually let that dry out. And
like open the can.
Yep.
Let it just set someplace out of the way of a pet or a kid.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. You could let that dry out, and you could throw that away in your standard municipal waste stream, your standard garbage. If you don't have a long time to wait, or you've got a lot of that paint and it'll take a long time to dry, you could put kitty litter in it. You could put shredded paper in there,
Just
whatever.
to kind of absorb it up.
Exactly, and kind of take care of it.
Even sand would work.
Sure. I mean, it just sort of helps it congeal and solidify, and you could throw that away. Now, oil-based paints, those have to be taken to a household hazardous waste site.
And those might be the types of paints you would use in staining your deck.
Possibly, you'd have to check.
Yeah, right. A lot of the stuff that you would use on wood. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of that stuff. Household hazardous waste is just the nasty stuff.
Now, do you consider bleaches or ammonia or things like that as hazardous waste?
Well, hazardous waste,
Yeah,
like
I mean,
household hazardous waste?
yeah,
Not really.
right,
No.
not really.
If you look at the one thing that I would do is, if I was concerned about particular chemicals or something like that, is I would check the website and go to the household hazardous waste drop-off site, or call my hauler. When we're getting into the weeds with particular specific chemicals and that sort of thing, it's best to talk to your hauler. It's best to talk to the drop-off site and ask the questions, because when we're talking about the myriad of chemicals that could be coming from some of these materials and products, you want to make sure that it'll be accepted.
Yeah, and I want to tell you a little something. You're probably going to hang me out here for when I do this, but this year we had a gopher problem in our yard. And, once they take hold, they become a real pest. And I bought some ammonia, and I poured a couple of cups of ammonia down each one of those holes, and my gopher problem went away.
Okay.
They don't like that at all.
I'm sure
But I mean, I don't think I used enough that was going to pollute anything, and it was far
Sure.
away from our well and all that. But, it was kind of, I thought, the unnatural way to do this, and they exited those places in a hurry.
Oh, sure.
But anyway, are people recycling more now than they did before?
I think so. When we think about the progression of how garbage has moved over the last 30 years or so, most of us don't throw all the garbage in one place. We're familiar with basic recycling. Lots of people do it. Maybe not everyone. Lots of people do it. Where we have just the standard paper, glass, and aluminum. It's required for all haulers in Kendall County to offer that standard basic recycling, commingled, meaning you could throw them all into one container at no extra cost as part of the service. This is something that we've had for a long time. So that basic type of recycling has been around for a long time. And I think over the course of the last 10 years, I've seen it myself, where people are starting to think more about what they're getting rid of and how to get rid of it. And as you're starting to see possibly more donations or possible reuse of goods or clothing, or the household hazardous waste, the tires, all these different things.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. What happens to all the tires? So when I go get a set of tires, they charge me for the tires, the new ones, and then they charge me a fee to get rid of the old ones. Where do all these tires end up?
That's a great question. I know that many of them are ground up and used in different ways, either as a possibly landfill cover or in other means, other uses.
I know that sometimes they playgrounds will have ground up pieces of tire there.
Absolutely. No, I've even heard of mulch and that sort of thing where they can work with different things. Now tires have metal through them.
And a lot of petroleum.
Sure, but anyway, it's the concept of you're reusing it and you're not, let's say, putting it out back and burning them or something along those lines. It's a different kind of thing. You're starting to see, and I think you're touching on a good point, which is what we're starting to see in the industry in general, is that kind of concept of stewardship. You have the industry is creating a product, but then they're also taking the product back and doing something with it at the end of its life, sending it off to a recycler or to be disposed of properly. And it's not all the responsibilities just thrown on the end user to get rid of it, because we found that most people will throw it in the garbage and then it ends up in a landfill and reacting, or it goes into a burn pile, or who knows what.
Yeah. And my husband, as a road commissioner, I mean, you'd be shocked at the amount of garbage that people just throw out into the ditch and let you worry about.
Sure.
It's electronics, it's tires, it's piles and piles of clothes. I mean, you name it. Sometimes it's dog waste in bags,
Sure.
I mean, people can be such, I hate to say it, people can be such pigs.
Well,
about
the whole,
how they do stuff.
we're never going to solve the problem of some people just inherently not being lazy. But when you talk about how the waste industry has changed, it's all about convenience. Convenience is a key. Convenience in the rules. If we ban electronics from landfills, we got to give people a place to put it. That's convenient.
Well, it's the old story.
How do you work with that?
If you close a door, people are going to go out the window.
Sure.
One way or the other, they're going to get rid of it. Yeah, that brings, as you talk about recycling and as they break down that this is dangerous and that's dangerous in the landfills, you have to have someplace else for it. Now, didn't you guys just do an electronic waste pickup a month or two ago?
We did. And one of the reasons was we discovered that as electronics have been banned from landfills, and they have been since 2012. There have been a number of people calling every week asking, where can I take my TV?
What am I going to do with
What am I going to do with this? What am I going to do with this? And again, industry has stepped in, which is fantastic, in some of the municipal solid waste contracts. They have offered electronics pickup along with household hazardous waste. It's at the curb in some cases. It's not going to be every week, but it'll be a couple of times a year. They'll announce it, and you put your stuff out, and it's good to go. What we found is that was a wonderful thing when we found that happening. But there's still a lot of people who did not have any way to dispose of these goods, and or at least any convenient way. So when you stop to think about it, one of the biggest problems we had were the old tube TVs. They're big.
They're huge.
They're heavy. And it's leaded glass. There's lead in it. It's dangerous. You don't want it in a landfill. Gets crushed up and it can permeate through the landfill. So we had we paid for it at the health department. We paid for a solid or an electronics collection event over the summer.
Which I would tell you that Seward Township sent you a check.
This is very true. This is very true. We had some assistance from the
townships,
from
and the
a few
villages,
townships.
right.
Absolutely, townships for sure.
Because if you don't get, like as you said, if you don't give people a place to put it or to get rid of it, we're gonna end up with a problem anyway.
Our solid waste coordinator he picked up so many TVs on his road himself, and he would take it out to be recycled.
Right.
That was just something that it's important to us. We understand there's a problem. It's expensive to run those.
Do the newer televisions have less of the hazardous metals in them?
It's a little different. It's not made with leaded glass anymore.
Okay.
There's other stuff in there. There's copper and other materials that can be pulled out of it and extracted that you shouldn't be throwing in a landfill as well. They are easier to get rid of, but
and there are a lot less of them in bulk.
Right. There's a lot less mass to those. So as we're looking at the biggest challenge, at least right now in electronics waste, was the TVs, and this time is going on, we're going to see less and less and less of them because they're not making them the same way anymore.
No, they aren't. You're right. They're lighter. There's a whole lot less stuff in them. They've just decided how to do it better.
We're saying TVs, but monitors as well. It's the same sort of concept, the big monitors.
Right. That's all gone by the wayside. Okay, we're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll be right back with Anne Rybski from the Kendall County Health Department, and stick with us. We'll be right back.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that! That's disgusting! Oh, poop already! You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Your son wants to get a cat, but you're allergic. Do you A, prepare yourself, B, make the best of it,
C squared equals
25.
Good job!
or C, find a loophole? When it comes to parenting, there are no perfect answers, but that's okay, because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
Welcome back to Fox Valley Today. I'm here with Anne Rybski from the Kendall County Health Department. Almost said the United States Department of Ag, because that's what we were talking about before we came back on camera. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the EPA and how that is all set up and coordinates.
When we're talking about the EPA as it relates to solid waste, a good thing to look at is their hierarchy of waste. That whole concept of what we really should be shooting for, and it makes a lot of sense. When you think about it, it's kind of like that inverted pyramid you have at the bottom of everything. This is the goal. You have bottom of the barrel, landfill. You dig a hole, put a liner in it, and throw all the garbage in it. It's easy. It's what we've been doing for a long time. Sometimes we don't even put a liner in it, going way back in time.
Right.
And you have just everything mixed together and everything sitting there and permeating out and getting into the aquifer and who knows what. It's very uncontrolled. That's the least desirable way to get rid of wastes. Above that, you've got incineration. You burn the garbage. You create sometimes hazardous fumes, toxins that all goes into the atmosphere, nasty stuff depending on what you're burning. Then you've got more controlled incineration, which you could still do, and there's actually very safe ways to do incineration, high heat incineration. It's not a burn barrel in the backyard. We're talking about specially designed incineration chambers that if they're designed for, let's say, one particular material, it can be set perfectly to get rid of everything.
Right, with lots of scrubbers on it that take out.
It cleans it.
Right.
It's still not preferred, but it's a step up from landfills. Beyond that would be the concept of waste to energy. You can incinerate this waste at very high heat, and you could generate energy off of it, in steam or other ways.
But that's not really taken off.
Well, it has in different areas. It's expensive. It needs to be fed. That is, you need to have a constant waste stream. And you need to have an end supply for the waste, because ultimately it's about money too.
Right.
You have to be able to maintain this to staff that type of operation. So as a matter of fact, in Indiana, they do a waste to energy plant that powers Indianapolis. It's a plant down there where they take the waste, they burn it, they generate steam. There's the infrastructure designed for that, and they're able to power the town, the city, with that waste. that's a big metropolitan area.
Right.
You know, so those are very specific circumstances when that works. Above that, you're getting to recycling, which, you know, is an easy thing to do. Let's reuse the stuff. Let's turn it into another product. But at the top of that pyramid, really the best is to consider that source reduction concept. You don't have to get rid of the waste if you've got no waste or
Right.
less of it. You know, total net neutral. You know, you're not generating waste. Hard to do. It takes people doing the right things. It takes industry designing the products. You know, it's a tough thing to reach. So what we have in this county is a combination of those things, and we want to keep pushing people up that chain to get them away from just throwing stuff right into the landfill. And industry starting to step in, and it's a community effort to do better for the planet.
I just wanted to throw a little something in, and this is kind of off the beaten track, but yet it's not. You know, there's hundreds of cruise ships throughout the world that travel the oceans and the coastal highways. They're taking upon themselves to get rid of plastic straws, because plastic straws become a huge environmental factor in the oceans and in the waterways. So that alone, and they talked about the millions of pounds of plastic that are generated just for plastic straws. And they're hoping that this whole thing starts moving over into all of us in our countries
Sure.
to just go to paper straws, because they do biodegrade.
Right. Well,
But that was just one of those things I had never thought about,
Sure.
a plastic straw.
No, it's something as simple. Well, same thing with water bottles. I mean, we're seeing so
Right.
many, and you know, how many people do you see that are actually carrying around not even a plastic water bottle, but now they'll have refillable water bottles, and
yeah.
they'll use that. I think people are starting to move that way. Products are moving that way. You have fast food restaurants that are starting to move that way. I think everyone's starting to look at this going, boy, we're making a lot of garbage.
Yeah.
We could fix this.
Yeah, you used to be able to you get something from one of the it would come in a styrofoam. It doesn't
Exactly.
now. Now it's paper. You know, it's a little cardboard thin.
It breaks
thing.
down
Right,
easier.
right.
Absolutely. Well, you're starting to see that change. And like I said, in source reduction, you could buy different products now that have less waste, that have a longer lifespan. You know, it's that whole concept of conserving. It's compost bins, it's rain barrels, it's a lot of these things where we're considering what we get from the earth, what we have here already. Can we use it? Can we buy less stuff that makes less garbage? Can we do it? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Right.
You know, you look at e-wastes, you look at cell phones. Right now, people are getting new cell phones every 2 years, and the old ones are disappearing.
More often, yeah. If anything comes up,
Exactly.
man, they're ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's become a major point, that there's been a lot of talk in industry and in legislative circles about how do we fix this. So there's changes that are coming with all that too. So people are working on it. They see the waste, and
Yeah.
that's an encouraging sign.
Well, we can all do something every day to make things a little bit better. I can tell you that I'm a little more conscious of it, you know, all the time. And I think today, by virtue of that discussion we have on paper plates, and we're not big plastic silverware users, but paper plates, paper towels, hey, if you're throwing in buy a few extra dish towels. You can always wipe off the counter with the dish towel.
Sure.
Throw it in the wash and,
Yep.
you know, buy a
Good
few
to go.
extra ones. Sooner or later, you'll have a good load of wash. Anything else, Aaron, you want to mention before we close today?
Well, I definitely would encourage people to visit our website, or you can even just Google the Kendall County Green page, and you'll be able to get a lot of good information off of that. If you don't have the internet or don't know how or don't like to use it, that's fine. You could give us a call at 553-9100.
Right.
That's a 630 area code. We're happy to help people. We're happy to point you in a direction. So yeah, that's very nice.
Well, thank you very much, Aaron, for joining us today. Don't forget to recycle and do a little better job, each one of us, to help this planet. It'll all be better for all of us and for our grandkids too. Thanks so much for joining Fox Valley today. We'll see you next time.